Yes, guys, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur with your boy Big Dave, bringing you your predicted lineup as Tottenham travel to the South Coast tomorrow to the Amex to take on the Seagulls. And it is a very, very important game. A win would really sort of heighten Tottenham's title credentials, but also give us fans, most importantly, something to dream of heading into 2024. And then it's just about over to the club to live up to their motto, to dare is to do, and get reinforcements in here to help Ange Postecoglou and this squad. But also where we are right now just goes to show how good Ange Postecoglou has been for Tottenham Hotspur. He's exceeded everybody's expectations this season, and hopefully he gets the backing in January, because he will need it with even more injuries. Now one to Romero, which is not good. But look, guys, let's get into it. Let's go through the team that I think Ange Postecoglou will pick to deliver all 3 points tomorrow night. And just quickly, I hope you've all had a great Christmas. Hopefully you're all still alive and didn't overdo it, and back with us for the Brighton game and all the usual match day content as well for tomorrow, starting with a pre-match build-up at 4 o'clock. So hopefully many can join us for that. So look, let's get into it, and we'll start with the man of the moment, and that is Big Vic in goals. For me, he's the best goalkeeper in the Premier League. Tell me another goalkeeper who's sort of pulling off as many big game saves as regularly as Vicario is. I don't think there is one. With a makeshift backline sort of once again in front of him, we already know what sort of to expect in these sort of games, that he is going to face a lot of shots, and we are going to need him to produce off another masterclass. How long can he keep doing this? It remains to be seen, but one thing I do know is that the defense will need to tighten up. Now, look, also, I do think maybe Vicario is starting to get the recognition that he deserves, but I see a lot of credit sort of being banded about to that makeshift backline that we've sort of used over this last period. I actually don't think it's fair. I think the praise is being misguided. I think it should all go on Vicario. Big saves, even when we did have Romero and Van de Ven, big saves behind that back line. And since this makeshift back line has come in, absolutely big saves once again. One at the end of the Fulham game, unbelievable. A couple in the Everton game, and that one off the bar, off his knee, back out, absolutely unbelievable. The guy's reflexes and reactions are absolutely top-notch, and we will also need him on the ball with Emerson and Ben Davies. I presume will be centre-backs if they are. And if Ollie Skipp plays in front of him, we're going to have trouble progressing that ball. So we're going to need Vicario's sort of passing range in this to sort of beat Brighton's press at times. So we're just going to need an absolute massive game from Vicario, and I hope all them defenders are very, very grateful for the world-class, and I said it, world-class goalkeeper they have behind them. Now, moving on to left-back, and we are welcoming them back. Destiny Edozie, of course, after serving his one-game suspension after accumulation of yellow cards. Now, what I will say with Destiny Edozie, he's going to have to be careful again, because the same idiot that booked him against Nottingham Forest for that shoulder challenge on Yates and allowed Yates to go on and commit 6 fouls and then book him to the 89th minute is back in charge yet again for tomorrow's game. So Edozie will have to be careful, because that guy, Gerard Gillet, doesn't seem to give him a fair shake. What I will also say is, I don't know why, but I have a sneaky suspicion that Edozie might end up getting on the score sheet or assisting a goal tomorrow to say, look, Tottenham fans, the big dog is back in action. And I cannot wait to see him marauding through the middle of that pitch at times and showing us what he's all about. Now, we will move on over to right back. We'll fill that one in. Less controversial here. And that is Pedro Porro. And a great stat for you guys out there. Only Vicario and Dejan Kulusevski have played more Premier League minutes for Spurs this season than Pedro Porro. So for me, that just goes to show how crucial he is becoming to Ange Postecoglou and to this team. But also how good he's been with the, he hasn't been dropped, hasn't really need to be rotated. His performances have been there. So hopefully we see more of the same again from Pedro Porro being rolled out there. Now, just quickly, I hear a lot of I've seen a lot, or shall I say, I read a lot sort of about Eric Dier maybe being a little bit exposed and it wasn't his fault. But Pedro Porro, we know this, with Ange Postecoglou's system, is tasked to get up the field and also get into the middle of the park. So Eric Dier has to learn to be able to deal with that if he is selected again. But we don't make them same excuses for Romero. He's able to deal with it. So I don't get it. But Pedro Porro, absolutely unbelievable stat there from him. Now we will move on to the back line. And I suppose we'll start with the left-hand side because it's the least controversial one. And I have gone with Ben Davies. Now, before I get into it, I would actually prefer Postecoglou to sort of be brave and either give a Dorrington and a Phillips a try out in that position, especially off the back of Ben Davies' performance against Everton, which I thought was atrocious. He was atrocious on the ball, but also in the air. Everton just whipped balls in towards him. Calvert-Lewin got a lot of sort of joy off him. He reverted back to type against Everton. The frustrating thing with Davies is there is good performances in there, but we don't see it on a regular basis from him. And this is my biggest frustration. We've seen against Newcastle, Nottingham Forest, absolutely outstanding, but reverted back to type against Everton. We're going to need a lot more consistency from the guy. And what I will say is, just me personally, I want to see. I think he will be here between now and the end of the season. Postecoglou seems to trust him over someone like Eric Dier, which, look, I probably would as well if I was in Postecoglou's position. However, if I was Postecoglou, I would be frustrated with how inconsistent Ben Davies can be. And if he really wants to stick around beyond next summer, for me, I want to see a lot more consistency from the guy between now and the end of the season. I want to see a lot more better performances than bad performances. But look, hopefully he puts in one of his better performances, because I do want 3 points on the board against Brighton today. But let me know what your thoughts are below. Do you want Postecoglou to be brave and give a Dorrington or a Phillips a goal? Let me know in the comment section below. Now we will move onto the right-hand side, and I know there are many out there clamoring for Eric Dier to start at right-sided centre-back. Even some people in the media I've seen suggesting maybe Eric Dier to come back in. However, let's cool the jets. The guy was absolutely atrocious when he came on against Brighton. But not only that, why would we keep persisting with a player where his future lies elsewhere? And I know you've heard me say that, and I'm going to be consistent when I get into the next position or further up the field. I'm going to show the same consistency to my point. However, we also have to understand that Emerson was also being deployed at left back. Emerson is the guy, even when Dier has been fit, he's filled in at centre back beside Ben Davies when Romero has been out when he was serving that suspension. And Emerson done a fine job. Now that Destiny Udoji's back at left back, that frees Emerson back up. And he will go back in at centre back, in my opinion, over someone like Eric Dier. Look, Emerson, he's becoming Mr. Dependable. Ange Postecoglou uses him at right back, centre back, and left back. And to be credit to the guy, and I don't see him getting enough praise, because if this was Ben Davies or an Eric Dier doing it, people would be in a dark room with some lotion, and absolutely praising the pants off these guys. For me, when it comes to Emerson, he hasn't made any defensive errors this season that have directly led to goals. People are going to point out last week against Everton, that was a free kick all day long and rightly called. However, with Emerson, what I will say is I do think he needs to be better on the ball. Against Man City, when they pressed us, he gave away the ball an awful lot. He couldn't really handle it at centre-back. And I think he also panicked because he's well aware of the dangers that lurk if you give away or you get caught in possession playing at centre-back. But look, for me, he's going to face the exact same against Brighton. I think they will look to press that back line if De Zerbi is smart, especially the likes of Davies and Emerson. But it's another opportunity for him to show why Ange Postecoglou keeps him around, why Ange Postecoglou uses him Mr. Versatile. And for me, someone like Emerson should be the bar that we set for squad players, not likes of Dier and that we've kept around for far too long. Emerson is the bar for a squad player, and I want more players of his ilk in here as squad players, so you can just put out there mentally solid and we'll put in a performance. Doesn't need a run of games, which I've heard so many times down the last few years. Oh, they need a run of games. Well, he doesn't. He just slots in and does a job. So that just throws that one out there. So I think that is the back line. Please let me know your comments on that makeshift back line. I would also throw another argument out there. Please let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. Why not put Phillips and Dorrington out there? They've played together for the under-21s the majority this season. Look how well the under-21s have done. They've been absolutely phenomenal. So if you want a ready-made centre-back partnership or pairing to go in there who already know each other's game, why not put the two of them out there? I know it's not going to happen, but why not? Why not give them the opportunity? Now, we will move on to the midfield, and of course, we will start with the CDM. Now, there's a lot of mixed, I would say, reactions to this position all across social media, YouTube, and all across the articles and journalism and stuff like that. When it comes to the CDM, I can understand, right? You've got Ollie Skipp, who, look, what I thought was absolutely abysmal last week against Everton, didn't give the back line any sort of protection whatsoever, and bar a 10-15 minute spell during the game, I thought the guy was absolutely atrocious in possession as well and didn't progress the ball bravely enough the way we expect. However, I do take the argument that it was his first start since the start of the season, and could he be better? But Postecoglou was also left in a position. Pierre-Emile Højbjerg is on his way out of the club. I sort of, said it last week in the game. The fact that he didn't come on first against Nottingham Forest, the fact that he wasn't picked to start last week, suggests to me that he's out of the club. Now, I was aware that he had a conversation with Ange Postecoglou. Postecoglou asked him to stay till at least the summer and decide his future then, whereas Pierre-Emile Højbjerg, I believe, has sort of come out and said that he wants to sort of leave in January to go and pursue first-team football and get first-team football under his belts before the Euros in the summer, which I can also understand. And look, he was also close to leaving in January. So it puts Postecoglou in a position, especially with these two guys. Does he persist with Ollie Skipp, who, look, in my personal opinion, I don't think is good enough, but we're going to be missing Basuma, Pape, Matar if Højbjerg gets sold. We're going to need to persist with Ollie Skipp and try and play him into form, a bit like what we done with Richarlison up the other end of the pitch. Or do you play someone that's out of here in January? For me, I think you might still see Højbjerg come off the bench, and Højbjerg isn't a player that's going to throw a game either. Don't get me wrong. He's still going to come in and do a job. I think he's still committed, but he's just looking after, he wants to be in the best sort of form he can be for the Euros, which I can sort of understand. Or do you bring in someone like Giovanni Lo Celso, who, look, didn't start last week again. But the narrative around him is the club ain't going to sell in January. But for me, I think that's to try and entice a cash bid for someone like G. Lo Celso. Me personally, I think it is going to be Ollie Skipp, so I'm going to throw him in there. What I will say about Giovanni Lo Celso, actually, when he came on off the bench last week, he was absolutely superb, by the way, in terms of defensively. He made some very, very crucial tackles, and this position could really go either way, Skipp or Lo Celso. But I'm trying to think what Ange Postecoglou would do, and I think Postecoglou will show Skipp a bit of fate. So I think he will be thrown in there. But let me know in the comments what you would do in that position. Do you roll out Højbjerg out there to try and get the 3 points, or do you play Skipp or Lo Celso? Let me know in the comments below, which I'm sure you guys will, because you've been absolutely phenomenal in the comments giving me your thoughts of late, so keep that up. Now, moving on to the right side of midfield, and there's no surprise that I've stuck with Pape Matar, and I think Postecoglou will too. Brighton will look to play out from the back into the midfield. You know the way they like to play, very sort of similar to what we do. And Pape Matar will be absolutely crucial in terms of breaking up the play. And as we know, no one else in the midfield really does what he can do. We've already seen the stat, or I bought you the stat, that the 4 games that he's missed, we've drawn 2 and lost 2. So that goes to show how crucial he is in terms of turning over the ball. So we're going to need an absolute relentless performance from him yet again, because Brighton will look to zip the ball around with runners going absolutely everywhere. So he's going to be crucial in terms of turning over the ball. However, one thing I also want to highlight is his ability on the ball. I don't think that gets enough recognition. You go back to some of the highlights this season, you see him switching the play from the right to the left-hand side and stuff like that. But one that will be certainly in the reel is that true ball that he laid on the plate for Brennan Johnson, who really couldn't get his cross wrong for the first goal that Richarlison took away. What a ball that was. If De Bruyne played that, it'd be all over social media, all over Sky Sports. But because it's Pape Matar, it doesn't get enough attention. But the vision and the ability to be able to thread that through, absolutely unbelievable. So hopefully we get another solid performance from Sarr, which I think we're sort of coming to expect from the guy at this point. Incredible for his age, so dependable. He has the world at his feet and can really be anything he wants to be. I just hope he doesn't lose that sort of shy personality that he has, because I feel that shy personality, that constant wanting to improve and become a better player, will really serve him well. I think this kid has a big, big future in the game. Now, moving on to the other partnership of the midfield, and I call it left-hand side of midfield, and that will be Dier and Kulusevski. Now, for me, one of his sort of quieter performances versus Everton. And look, I do think that largely that's because we spent large spells sort of the game defending on the back foot, chasing shadows a lot of the time. But we really do need Kulusevski back to his best, which is on the ball, running at opponents. So hopefully we can get enough quality early ball into his feet, into a bit of space where he can run and really make things happen, because he is so effective through that middle. Look, he's also effective off the right-hand side, but right now, because of his work rate, and also I don't think he gets enough credit for the amount of tracking back he does defensively, helping out defensively as well, he'll be thrown in there. Absolutely unbelievable so far this season in that sort of regard. But also, uh, I wouldn't be surprised to see him on the score sheet. He's another one I have sort of a sneaky feeling for. I know a lot of people are predicting this might be a bit of a tight game. However, if we can start fast the way we do and get an early goal, I don't think Postecoglou will allow them to rest on the laurels like they did against Everton. And you could really see us sort of do this in style if everybody is sort of on form. And Kulusevski will absolutely be at the heart of that. Now we're going to move into the forward areas. That's if you guys are still with me. I know I'm sort of rambling, but I'm so excited about where we are right now and the sort of players that we're dealing with and looking at. They're absolutely brilliant, bar maybe one or two because of the injury crisis. Now, moving on to the right side of midfield, we'll get that one over and done with, and that will be the one and only Brennan Johnson. Now, I see a lot of people sort of saying, I was involved in both goals last week. The first goal, good cross. But I mean, it was all set up from the pass from Pape Matar, put him in the clear, no pressure on him. All he had to do was roll a 10-yard ball across the box for Richarlison to tap home. However, he done that, which is great. The second goal, he had a shot, and it was Pickford that saved it and pushed it back into Son's sort of direction. But look, what I will say is he also missed a sitter as well earlier on from about 8 yards out that he probably should have put away. And the sort of real frustrating thing when it comes to it, Brennan Johnson, is because I thought for large spells of that game, he was very frustrating against Everton. I think the opening 15 minutes, 20 minutes, he looked sort of really bright, but he really faded out the game and really became frustrating for me. I just think he just needs to be a little bit more patient sometimes in the final third. Sometimes I think he's trying to rush what he's doing. I think his pace is almost coming back to haunt him. Sometimes he just needs to slow it down in the moment, or at least slow it down in his mind a little. And I just think he needs to become a lot more consistent in the final third. I feel like right now we see one good game, one sort of average game, one good game, one sort of average game. We really need to see a bit more consistency from Brennan Johnson. And I do think that'll come because he has all the attributes to become a top player. I'm absolutely convinced he's got the pace, he's got the hunger to run at players. I just think when it comes to crossing the ball, I think sometimes he's over eager, over hits it and stuff like that. I've seen that with many Spurs wingers over the years earlier on in their career, the likes of Gareth Bale, Aaron Lennon, people like that. But what they did do when they got older with more experience under the belt, they sort of refined how good they were in the final third, and they became absolutely devastating. And Brennan Johnson can be one of them players, and I think he will. He just needs a bit more consistency in that department in the final third. Now, moving on to the other winger, and that is the left-hand side, and we will stick with Sonny. Despite scoring last week, I actually was left again very frustrated with Son's overall performance. Thought he gave away a lot of sloppy ball, very indecisive in the final third. But he has been one of the most crucial players on our away trips this season. We have one of the best away forms in the league, if not the best. And Son has been integral to that, notching 7 goals and 1 assist away from home so far this season. So he's going to be absolutely crucial in us being able to get over the line in this game. And I have no doubt he's only got, I think, Everton and potentially Bournemouth, and then he's maybe Burnley. Then he sets off for the Asian Cup. So no doubt he's going to want to sort of sign off in style, which I think he will. I think he might actually score. But it was great to see him score last week, you know, from the left-hand side. Absolutely brilliant. Shows that he can score and assist goals from the left wing, that we don't just need to constantly shoehorn him down the middle. And again, showing his versatility this season. He's been absolutely influential. And look, long may it continue, and hopefully he does sign off in style and put in an absolute great performance. Now, moving on to the man of the moment, the guy up front who has showed unbelievable determination, desire, and grit. Got a lot of stick off the Spurs fan base. And in reality, you know, we were being told he's injured, he's playing through injuries, he needs surgery, this, that, and the other, but we didn't want to hear it. He's took all the stick. I actually think the club has let him down in that regard. They could have came out and maybe said something straight from the club rather than maybe leaking it to media sources, which inevitably fans find it hard to believe sort of 99% of what they say anyway. Only 1% of it really, especially when it comes down to transfers and stuff like that, really becomes true. So I do think the club have maybe failed Richarlison in that department. They could have protected him a little bit more, in my opinion. However, he's on absolute fire. Another goal last week against Forest. What's that? 4 goals in 3 games now. He's on absolutely fire. Richie's on fire. You're the fitch is terrified. What I will say is, though, that coming into this game, he is carrying a bit of a knock in his back. And I think within the first few minutes, with his movement, we'll be able to tell exactly whether he's carrying that knock or not. So we'll see how fit he is in the first couple of minutes. One thing I think Richarlison deserves a lot of praise for this season, which I think has actually gone under the radar, is the timing of his runs into the box. And it's been there all season long. Even if you remember against Luton, he missed a couple of sitters. Missed one there just before he went on the scoring streak as well. I think that was in the Villa game and stuff like that. But I always say about a striker, your luck will change if you keep putting yourselves in the right position. And he's done that all season long. And eventually his luck has turned around. But the timing of his runs to get into the box for them chances is absolutely exceptional. And something he's improved massively on from last season. Last season, he was caught offside an awful lot. This season, it's not happening as much. And the timing of his runs has been absolutely perfect. So I do think he deserves a lot more praise on that. And hopefully he bags another couple of goals, because I tell you, I love nothing better than doing the pigeon dance, especially when you're up against other species from the bird sort of family in the seagulls. You know, we want to be reigning supreme. So hopefully we will get to do the pigeon. But that's my starting lineup for this big, big game before we head into the Bournemouth game and into the new year. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Give me your starting lineup. Let me know whether you agree, disagree with any of my points. If you could smash the like button. I know it's asking a lot on top of comments, but that would absolutely be awesome. And I'll see you guys back here at 4 p.m. tomorrow for the pre-match build-up for the big game. As always, come on, you Spurs. In the big hands, we trust. And the best motto, I absolutely love it, and I live to it right now: we never stop. Let's go.